Welcome, everyone, to episode 84 of the Gully Blanchard podcast. My name is Ryan, coming to you from the continent of California, live and direct on a recorded podcast. This was originally a one-man podcast, and I brought in two of my friends. What's up, Ricky? What's up, Diddy? Get well soon, Marcus. You all know we love you. Then, life got in the way. Life happens sometimes, so I decided to go back to doing a one-man show where I talk to people that I've interacted with either in the real world or social media that I think can be people I enjoy talking to. This podcast is generally based either around pro wrestling, basketball, the NFL, the NBA, whatever really comes up, comes out essentially with these kind of things. Now, you can check out all 84 episodes of the Gully Blanchard podcast. It's available at gullyblanchard.podbean.com. Another quick way to check us out is available through iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get podcasts, just search Gully Blanchard. We're going to be there. You can also check us out at nocoastbias.com, where all the podcasts are held. And we're also holding all my wrestling writings there as well at nocoastbias.com. Shouts out to Derek. Thank you very much. So I want to bring in the guy who I know I've talked about this on previous podcasts where I do a lot of my Sacramento Kings writing. It's going to be at royalpain.com, so you can check it out there. The guy who is the site expert of a Royal Pain, which is through Fansided, Rafe Wong. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
No problem. So for those who don't know what a Royal Pain is, and I know it's through Fansided. You can check it out at royalpain.com. Where and how would you describe a Royal Pain to someone who's never checked it out before?
So I would say it's more like a fan-generated blog site where it gives the opportunity for aspiring sports writers or just, people who love sports to write about, what their thoughts are on the Kings specifically for this site. So, that's what I would say it's about.
All right, cool, man. So where can people check it out? I know I said to royalpain.com. They can follow it on Twitter at a Royal Pain. But if people want to follow you or the site, where can people get more information on it?
So obviously you could go to the site, which is royalpain.com. And also if you want to see my thoughts on the Kings or any articles I ran up for the site, Rafe Nation is my Twitter handle, RAF Nation. And yeah, if you want to see my thoughts on the Kings and stuff, you can check that out.
Cool, man. So I know I grew up a Sacramento Kings fan my entire life. My earliest memories of basketball are going to games at Arco Arena.
Nice.
But how exactly did you become a fan of this team? What were some of your earliest introductions to the Kings?
Pretty similar to you. I would say when I was a kid, that's when I started becoming a fan, just from loving the game of basketball first. I'm from Folsom, California, which is 20 minutes away from Sacramento. So, I just rooted for the local team, and being a fan of basketball, knowing that there was a local team here, that's how I came up with my decision.
That's good. I think that's what a lot of people did out here for a while. I know, in the 90s and early 2000s, this was definitely a basketball city. I think it's trailed off a little bit, just with the team not being as good in the rise of the Golden State Warriors. But What do you think it is that makes the Sacramento Kings such an important part of the city? Because to me, it is the only pro sports team that we have out here. Yes, we have the River Cats and Sacramento Republic, and it is growing. But what do you think it is that holds the Sacramento Kings in such a special part in the city of Sacramento?
I think it's like what you mentioned. It's the only professional sports team that plays in Sacramento. Like you got the River Cats and you got Sacramento Republic, but they're not in the big leagues like the Kings are in the NBA. So I think just having a professional sports team in their city, there's a lot of pride that the people of Sacramento have because of that. And as a result, it has them, it's created a commitment from them to, root for this team. I don't think compared to other bigger market teams in the NBA, the Kings community isn't that big, but it is very strong, I believe, because there are people that have committed to this team and rooting for them and supporting them even throughout the bad years.
Yeah, and I will say it's been a couple challenging years in the past. I think with the Boogie trade and Vivek taking over. Obviously, getting the new arena has been huge for Sacramento as a whole. Not
Yeah,
necessarily, the Kings, but I think of all the other things that Golden One Center has been able to bring in, such as like the NCAA tournament. You got bigger name concerts that now stop by. So, having the arena there, I am still a little biased. I loved Arco Arena the same way. Like I'm a Mets fan and I'm
yeah,
always going to love Shea Stadium a little bit more than Citi Field just because you have so much emotional ties to it.
right.
Arco just had a different feel to it, but I absolutely understand the value of Golden One Center, and it's done a great job attracting buzz to downtown Sacramento, and it's helped revitalize the city for sure.
Yeah, and I'm with you on there. I think that's because it was a lot of childhood memories. I like Arco a lot better than Golden One Center, but that's maybe just because of the nostalgia.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many special memories from Arco, and we're
Right.
making them slowly but surely with Golden One Center. But who were some of your favorite players or favorite memories growing up as a Kings fan out here in Folsom and Sacramento?
So, believe it or not, my favorite players growing up were Bobby Jackson and Doug Christie, and Doug Christie was on the top of the list.
Okay, now what attracted you to Doug Christie? Because it seems like a lot of people who have favorites of those early odds teams, like the greatest show on the court or what have you, like everyone's got kind of a special connection to each player.
Right.
What was it about Doug Christie that attracted you to him and Bobby Jackson as a kid?
Honestly, I think it was just because of the positions. Like growing up, my favorite position was shooting guard, and seeing how the Kings had both Jackson and Christie playing were both the shooting guards for the team. It kind of just made it more relatable in a way. And also, I had brothers too, and we all kind of had our choice of who to root for as well. Like my older brother, he chose Chris Webber as his favorite player. My younger brother, chose Mike Bibby. So I don't know. I just remember Chrissy. I think it was because of the position, to be honest.
He was definitely someone that I think he played an integral role in having those other guys shine. Like I think he was definitely one of the first real solid wing defenders that brought a different level of defensive intensity to Sacramento. And, he wasn't a player that was going to go out and get you 20, 22 a night, but he would definitely be someone that you could put on the top guards of the Western Conference at that time. And it would allow sort of Peja room to free up his stamina to use it on the offensive end. So I do think Christie was very important. He's actually transitioning into a color role with the Kings this year, coming up in the upcoming season. I know he's done a lot of work with NBC Sports and all that, but it'll be pretty interesting to see him transition into that role.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously it's exciting for me because, I just grew up, revering the guy. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does this season. He got big shoes to fill though, because Jerry Reynolds definitely was one of the best in the Kings community, in my opinion.
Absolutely. He was somebody, along with Grant Napier, I don't really ever remember a time where there wasn't Grant Napier and Jerry Reynolds. I remember Gary Gerald, I remember Brian Wheeler with Wheels After Work, but anytime you think of Kings television broadcast, you always think of Jerry Reynolds and you always think of Grant Napier. Those guys are iconic when it comes to their roles in the city and with what they've done.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely a lot of my childhood memories, involved just watching Kings games and stuff and hearing their voices and entertaining as well.
Yeah, and Grant's definitely been a guy who's polarizing within the city. If nothing else, right. Some people either really like him, and I think some people have a disdain for him. I can't sit here and honestly say I'm a huge fan of what he does, but I recognize the ability to do that job for as long as he's done it. It does take a certain skill level that I can't necessarily knock the skill level. He has certain opinions about players I don't necessarily fall in line with.
Right.
But to be able to do what he's done at that level for as long as he has definitely takes some level of skill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that about Grant. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I will say that I think he's done a good job both as the commentator of the Kings and also on his radio show. I think his job is to entertain, to get reactions out of people, and he's definitely done that, I believe.
Absolutely. I think now, in 2018 with social media and certain members of the media get notoriety or get fame by just spouting out, certain hot takes just to get a reaction. I think
right.
The goal in 2018 is for someone to say, "Oh my God, did you hear what Skip Bayless said on Skip and Shannon, and then that starts the dialogue, then the person checks it out. I think in that vein, I think Napier was definitely ahead of his time in that case. He's definitely been able to do pretty well for himself with that market.
Right.
I want to get into the 2018 season. I know we've talked about it before. I know I've contributed some articles about my love for the early odds teams and things I think they should do to sort of bring that fan base back. But I want to talk about this season coming up. I know, Harry Giles is supposed to be his rookie year. Marvin Bagley, I think, is forever going to be tied to Luka Doncic no matter what he does for this rookie year. But I want to start with Giles. He's had a pretty exciting summer league and a pretty exciting preseason. I think there's a fire in him that we haven't seen. But what were some of your overall impressions watching Giles play?
Yeah, I like Giles a lot. I think definitely he's living up to the hype so far. Just looking at him play during the summer league and even preseason, he just looks like he knows how to play basketball and that he's a gamer on the court. Like, he has a great skill set. The athleticism definitely looks like it's there now, even after the injury woes. And what's even more impressive is his instincts on the court. He looks like he's a really smart player that, is going to help, hopefully help the Kings, gel together better. And it's kind of reminded me of Bogdan Bogdanovic when he came here last year.
Yeah, the one thing that impresses me about Giles, and I think if nothing else, the knock on the Kings front line has been that it's not exactly intimidating. Willie Cauley-Stein and Scal, they're good players, they're good pros, but they're not someone who's going to make you think twice about going in the lane and going against them. And I think, the era of the intimidating big man isn't what it once was, but I think if nothing else, Giles is fire. I draw a lot of comparisons to Kevin Garnett in a sense to where I hope, if nothing else, that helps set a culture and set an identity that this team has definitely been lacking for quite some time.
Yeah, definitely. I think, definitely toughness has been an issue with the Kings for the last couple of seasons, I would say. Actually, ever since DeMarcus left, I believe. And, just seeing Giles on the field or on the court, showing a lot of energy, getting up on guys, clapping after every good defensive play he makes, it's definitely refreshing to see. The Kings have lacked that kind of toughness for the last couple of years, so hopefully he can be able to spark it up again.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does, because I think, an intensity like that, I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can, with Willie and Scal, but I'm hoping, if nothing else, defense and intensity and emotion on the court is definitely contagious. You're around – even in our daily lives, you're around certain friends that like to laugh and they make you laugh a little bit more. And, I hope, if nothing else, that transitions over to the basketball court to where, when Giles is on the court with a Scal or a Willie Cauley-Stein, those guys are trying to pick it up to match Harry Giles' intensity.
Right. Exactly. So here, definitely hope that, the energy that Harry puts on the floor definitely can attract, other teammates to do the same thing as well, and they can develop a reputation of being a tough team.
Absolutely. Now, one of the major storylines I think is going to be interesting in this coming season is this could potentially be Willie's last year with the Kings. I know he can hit free agency relatively soon, and he's gone on a record as saying that he does want a big payday. And I think, eventually the Kings are going to be having these expiring contracts with Randolph and Koufos and Shumpert. So they will have money to spend. I just think it's going to be an interesting storyline to see if, obviously in contract years, guys always seem to pick it up a little bit. I think Dion Waiters is a prime example of that in Miami. I'm just interested to see how the city and the team reacts to, is Willie Cauley-Stein a piece of the puzzle, or is he the piece of the puzzle? And I think it's going to be really interesting to see. But I want to get your thoughts on, Willie's career in Sacramento. And would you, if you were in that position, would he be someone you would build around, or would he be a piece of the puzzle?
It's tough right now because, I think Willie has played inconsistent throughout his time here, but I also think the Kings have been utilizing him wrong, especially on offense. I see Willie along the top of the key trying to make plays, whether it's him trying to score or set up teammates, but I think he's the most effective when, he's more inside the paint. I remember in the year where they traded Cousins and when during the second half of that season, that was the best I ever saw Willie play, when they're playing him more inside and running the pick and roll a lot. But since then, they kind of steered away from that. So I don't know. Maybe it's, I don't know whether that's just, the Kings wanting their big men to play in their offensive system like that. But if that's the case, it just seems like there's not a good fit here for Willie and the Kings.
I think right now the Kings have, and I know Jaeger played that lineup in Seattle and they played Golden State, but they do have 4 competent 7-footers, or I think Scal's about 6'10". They have 4 guys that essentially can play roughly the same position. I don't see one guy as far as Bagley or Scal or Giles or Willie yet doing anything better than the other 3. So I'm just interested to see what kind of decision is made about Willie, because you have 3 guys that can play that 4 or 5 role. The only thing that troubles me is none of them really have a shot that can stretch the defense the way you want sort of a 6'11", 7-foot guy in 2018 to do so.
Yeah, I think there's definitely potential from some of the guys that could stretch out the floor, but like you said, it hasn't been proven yet. Like Scal has a good shot, but he can't really make the 3-pointer consistently right now. Bagley made threes in college, but that was a really small sample size. And Giles got some potential too, but none of them have really stretched the floor out. Can stretch the floor out and haven't. So it'll be interesting to see if they can develop that this season.
Now, one of the more hot button topics in Sacramento over this summer before the draft was essentially, was it Luka? Was it Bagley? Was it Bagley? Was it Luka? Everything that Bagley did compared to Luka. And I think it's going to be interesting where it reminds me a lot of guys that go 1 and 2 in the draft. A good comparison for me is Durant and Oden, to where no matter what Durant does with his career, Portland fans always kind of sulk, being like, oh, we could have had that.
Right.
In Seattle fans, I'm sure there was a contingent of Seattle fans that really wanted Greg Oden to fall until he did. And I think, at least in Sacramento, because I don't think it's really a national issue, I think in Sacramento, whatever Luka does every night is going to be compared to whatever Bagley does, fair or unfair. But where did you come out on the Bagley to Luka comparison in draft day, and who did you want the Kings to take?
Well, I wanted the Kings to draft Luka, and even though I think Bagley can be a good player for the Kings, I would still take Luka right now. But at the same time, I'm not really swaying about it. Like in my draft piece that I wrote before the draft, I had Luka at number 2 and Bagley at 3. So either way, I knew the Kings were going to get a good player because I knew those were the 2 guys that they were really dialed in on. So even though I think Luka will be a better player than Bagley, I still think Bagley could be a good team, or could be a good piece for the Kings' future. It just depends on how he develops and how the coaching staff develops him.
So I know you mentioned the Kings' future, and it's been kind of interesting to where they really feel like this year is going to be the year they officially go towards the youth movement. I think last year there was kind of a start-stop with, the George Hill and Vince Carter and Zebo and Costa. They were kind of trying to find their identity. I think this year it's been, evident in what Jaeger said, that they're going to commit to going young and they're going to run the guys that they have. Who do you view as the Kings core of the future? I usually figure like a core is about 4 or 5 guys, but, with the ton of guys that are 3 years and under in that Kings system, who excites you the most about long-term prospects for this team?
I would say the 5 guys that I think the Kings are really, dialed in on would be De'Aaron Fox, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Buddy Hield, Harry Giles, and Marvin Bagley III, just because of their age and, the potential that they bring. And honestly, those are the guys I'm excited about, more intrigued about to watch during this season. I want to see how Buddy, whether he takes that next step of improvement after having a good sophomore season, seeing how Bogey develops and Fox as well, and also seeing how Giles and Bagley play in their rookie seasons. They haven't played in the NBA yet, and with all the hype that comes around them, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
Absolutely. I think those are essentially the 4 that I'm most intrigued with. I go back and forth with Buddy just because I understand this is definitely a shooter's league. I towards the end of last year, my frustration was, if the team's out of it, I saw him coming off the bench on some guys. So or
Right.
on some nights. So I'm just interested to see, like, if you can't crack the rotation for last year's team to be in the starting rotation, where do you fit in this year's rotation where you have guys coming in like Yogi, or you have another year of Bogdan and De'Aaron Fox. So I'm interested to see where Buddy fits in that,
Right.
just because it's been a year and a half, and he was known for his shooting. This is going to be a team where they're going to score 90 to 100 a game, and somebody's got to get the scoring. Every team's got to have that top scorer. I think Buddy can do it. I just haven't seen enough to say, okay, this is going to be one of the guys that we build around for a long time.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you there. And just to clarify, I would say I do consider Buddy a piece, but I don't consider him to be like, like one of the top guys necessarily. Like I kind of view him if he could play a role like JJ Redick played with the Clippers, I'd be totally fine with that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I see him as being sort of a guy that comes off the bench, and in the same vein where in the same way that you were a big fan of Bobby Jackson in the past, I think Buddy's obviously a better shooter, but in that role to where he's the sixth man off the bench and can come in and get baskets, and I think that's something that the Kings sorely missed in certain spots of last year, was they didn't really have a guy that if they went down 8 points with 5 minutes left, they didn't really have a guy that I felt that could get those 8 points back. And I think that's something that they desperately need as they go into this year, to where they're going to be in a lot of games just because of athleticism. I'm just hoping they're going to be able to have a guy that can help win them a lot of games.
Yeah, hopefully Fox is that guy. I kind of see him as that guy going forward. I thought it was going to be Buddy originally, but yeah, it's just tough for him to create his own shots still, even though he has improved his ball handling skills. But yeah, if there is going to be a guy that can help the Kings, get back and after deficits and put the team on their back, I would say it would be Fox or maybe Bogdan.
Yeah. Now, one guy that I am interested in seeing, we haven't seen him in a Kings uniform yet, is going to be Amon Shumpert.
Mm-hmm.
What are your expectations of him? Because he seems like a guy who can teach the guys a lot as far as about being a skilled defender, and a guy that can still get his own shot coming off, a couple knee surgeries. I'm interested to see how he performs. I know this is a contract year for him as well. What are your expectations of him coming into this year?
I just hope the Kings, get to play him a lot. Last year we didn't get to see him play, because of his injury concerns, and he had those injuries coming back with the calf. But just hopefully he's able to get some consistent playing time on the court. In terms of him being one of the top guys, I'm not expecting that at all. I know that Jaeger's trying to push the young guys to play, so just be that kind of veteran presence, kind of like Garrett Temple was, where when the youngsters are looking a little bit lost on the court, he's a guy he's a guy that could play with them, that can help guide them, in the right direction. And also, he's also known as a great defender as well. So hopefully he brings a little bit more defensive presence for the team this year as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping, if nothing else, with Shumpert, because obviously I don't expect Shumpert to stay in Sacramento after his last year. I'm hoping, if nothing else, he could possibly be, and I've written this in a column on a Royal Pain before, but I really see him as being a potential trade asset to a team like Houston or to a team like Portland at the All-Star break, to where there's a team that's going to feel they might be a wing player away. And I think he'd be. I don't think there's anyone in the league that can stop Durant or stop your Klay Thompsons. But I think if you have a team like Portland or Houston that's going to recognize that in order, if we're going to be a team that's on the fringes, if we add a guy like Shumpert and we deal that first round pick, it's going to probably be in the 20s. Hopefully, if nothing else, that could help a Portland or help a Houston or help a Oklahoma City get into that Western Conference Finals and get past the Lakers hump and possibly, make the series interesting with Houston. But or with Golden State. So I hope, if nothing else, he may be a valuable trade piece by the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, if the Kings could get a first-round pick, by dealing Shumpert or any of their veterans, really, that would be a huge plus, because the team doesn't have a first-round pick this year. So, hopefully, if they could get one in return, that help them a lot.
Absolutely. So I want to send it home on a couple quick questions here. Obviously, we're going to try to be as realistic as we can. I don't exactly see the Kings setting the league on fire this year as much as, as much as, one of these days I'd love it for it to happen. I remember, my fiance is a Golden State Warrior fan, and she tells me about all those years of frustrating drafts and Todd Fuller. So I'm hoping one day we get our Steph Curry. But what are your expectations for the 2018-2019 Sacramento Kings campaign? What makes it a good year?
Oh, okay. Honestly, a good year would be to see how those core pieces, like we mentioned, develop. If they're able to make leaps of improvement, that would be great. I would also say that, if they're able to, if the younger town's able to develop and gel together as a group, and you're seeing them play better as the year goes on, I'd say that's a success. And in terms of wins, I really expect this team to win maybe like 25 to 30 games. I don't really think they'll be, in contention for the playoffs. I see them more around that basement of the Western Conference. But if they get over 30 wins, that would be, great success. I would be shocked.
Yeah, for me, I think the two takeaways I want to take from this year is I hope by the end of the year we at least look like an attractive free agency destination. Because I feel like we're going to have a lot of money coming off the cap, and they've got to spend it. So I'm hoping, if nothing else, they can get a guy. They can add a 3 in the free agency that could fill it up on the stat sheet. And if nothing else, I just hope that it feels like they're going in the right direction. I think the last 2 drafts, I was definitely Team Boogie, and I was definitely upset when they traded him.
Yeah.
I think that's another one it's a hot button issue still throughout Sacramento, but I understood that, with adding Fox and adding Bogdan and then adding Bagley and the return of Giles, if nothing else, it at least feels like they're trending up. So I'm just hoping to take away from this year that upward trend continues, and we can at least look like an attractive free agency destination to a free agent that we may have to overpay. I know we looked after Otto Porter last season, but I think someone like that can fill up the stat sheet. If we have to overpay him, we're going to have the money to do so.
Yeah, definitely. I think, just Sacramento, it's not an attractive, destination for free agents. So definitely, if the Kings do see a player that they, that they want to have on their team and think they can really make make a good impact for the organization, yeah, I would say overpay him, definitely. Also, I would also say that a success for the Kings would be to find an identity. I think last season they were inconsistent every game, and really you didn't know what to expect from the team. So hopefully some kind of stability and identity is developed this season. I think that'll be a success as well.
I couldn't agree with you more there, but we want to write it home on that. Again, royalpain.com. I obviously just gave the link away, but for those who don't really know what it is or haven't got a chance to check it out, how would you describe that to people?
So I would say it's a group of people that have, the passion to write about sports and are also Kings fans as well, that, are giving their opinions on the team. It's a blog site that's generated by fans, and, although, none of us are basketball experts, I would say there are good ideas that could be developed on that site. And, it's just a bunch of guys that are Kings fans that are giving out their ideas and thoughts about the team. So if you want to see different perspectives, I say that would be a good website to go to.
Absolutely, man. Now, I know you and John Roberts do a really good job of keeping fresh content up there. I know I've gotten a couple articles on there, and it's been something I've been extremely proud of to contribute, to a website and contribute to a fan base that I'm always going to love. And I think sometimes it's a little bit difficult to love this franchise, but they've always been there, and they're always going to continue to be there. So I'm going to continue to be there for them. But, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Again, where can people follow a Royal Pain and then also follow you on Twitter?
So the Twitter handle for a Royal Pain is going to be, a Royal Pain, all in one word, on Twitter. And the website is just royalpain.com. And if you want to see some of my thoughts on the Kings, then you could go to my Twitter handle, which is Rafe Nation, RAFNATION.
All right, cool. So you can check out all 84 episodes of the podcast by searching Gully Blanchard on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. We're also available on No Coast Bias. You can follow me on Twitter at Gully Blanchard, which is Gullyblanchard. You can also check out, I do some contributions for Royal Pain as well at royalpain.com. Also, all podcasts are going to be hosted at nocoastbias.com. That is going to be it for the week. I've got to get to work. So obviously I've got some stuff to do today. But Rafe, thank you very much, man, for taking the time to come on the show. And I really appreciate everything.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on and just, talk about the Kings.
Yeah, they are, as difficult as it is, especially being out here in the Bay Area. It is difficult to wear that purple with some pride, but I'm still going to do it. And, one of these days, it'll definitely be back to what it was. I definitely believe in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I want to get you out of here on one quick question because this has always been something I find to be polarizing with a lot of fans. How do you feel about the baby blue uniforms?
The ones that they wore last year?
Yeah, the city ones, or just them constantly going back to that baby blue colorway. Are you a fan of the baby blue, or is it something you're tired of, or where do you come out with that?
I would say I'm a fan of it. Yeah, I think they're a cool setup. Last year's was a little bit weird though, but what I think would be cool going forward is to maybe do a different colorway, like maybe kind of mix it up a bit, but have that same kind of throwback, font on there. I always thought it would be cool to have like a red and baby blue uniform where the red was the base of it.
I can see that definitely. I myself, I wish they'd go back to the royal blues, which I call the Mitch Richmond era.
Oh yeah, those are cool too.
That was my first era with the team, so I know I'm a little bit biased, but I'd love to see the Mitch Richmond and the Wayman Tisdale and the Walt Williams jersey come back at some point every now and again.
Yeah, for sure. That would be cool too, because I remember during the early 2000 teams, they wore the royal blue jerseys, or at least the white base of it. But yeah, those are cool too.
Absolutely, man. So we're gonna send it home on that. Again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you guys very much for listening. Bear, this was for you. Get well soon, Marcus. We all love you, and we'll talk to you guys next week.